Hello and welcome to another episode of Technical Tea. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is a special episode. This is our first somewhat sponsored episode, actually. Alan Yu of naturalpuerh.com sent me a sampler of 2 teas that we're going to try today. You can go to their website to see all their other selections, but they seem to have a wide variety of tea, some cool teaware, and their shipping prices to the US seem pretty fair. So let's see what naturalpuerh.com has for us today. And thanks again for the tea sampler, Alan. So we're going to start off with some Phoenix Black Tea. Red Can Kungfu Classic 58 Blend. I showed this tea to my wife, and just from the smell, she was immediately impressed with like the chocolate notes. Let's pour some out here. So while the smell was the first thing she noticed, the full leaves was the first thing I noticed. Look at that. We've got a full cup. The leaves are intact. They're curled up and dried, just ready to release their flavor. Most of the teas that I drink don't have this full quality leaf. They're broken or maybe even like chipped and flaked in certain places, which is not bad. It doesn't ruin the color or the flavor, but it is a particularly nice quality to have the tea leaves preserved, which is something rare in a lot of tea that I've had so far. So the smell has this sort of thick, dusty, chocolatey flavor. So let's add some water. Let's see what we've got. Now, the nice thing about this guy Juan is it's a very simple brewing vessel. It gives me total control over the water, the steeping, how long things sit, all that stuff. So let's let that sit for a second. And this first pouring we're not going to drink right now. I'm going to save it for later. Because this podcast is all about tasting tea, not about drinking or making tea. So you can see the liqueur has this nice golden color to it, but we're going to save that for now. What I want to focus on is the leaves. So after the leaves have been wetted and have gotten heated up a little bit, they really release their true smell. Yeah, and you can really smell that sort of thick, luxurious chocolate bitterness. And the chocolate bitterness and the tea bitterness, just such a fantastic blend together. I'm really excited to get this going. So let's try our first steeping. And this is actually my second attempt to record this podcast. I'm still figuring out my video setup, so I know from experience that this tea brings out the flavor over steepings. So this will be our first steeping. You can see those leaves have started to lose their like dark charcoal color. They've really started to unfurl and release the flavor. I'm checking the camera right now. I'll cut all this stuff out, making sure the focus is still where we want it. All right, let's hope it's not lost this time. We've got this nice golden red liqueur color with, because these are full leaves, there's no floaties, which is nice. And it still maintains that heady cocoa bitterness that really blends well with the tea bitterness. I don't know if this actually has chocolate in it. I went on the website, and it's marketed as like a basic sort of common blend, the equivalent of a Starbucks It makes reference to how famous it is, how many awards it's won. So I get the feeling this is like a straightforward blend, but I'm detecting all sorts of nuance and variety in the smell. Let's give it a taste. It's not as dry as I expected it to be. It has a very bold flavor. Almost like a sort of coffee aftertaste, but without that thick bitterness. It's just like a very sort of subtle, heady flavor that floats on the tongue. Really tasty, though. So that's our second steeping. Again, we'll save that for later. For now, let's try if we can get out our third steeping. And this one I'm going to steep for a very short time. Let's see if we can pick out some more subtlety. And then the third one I'll let steep a little longer to see if it brings out some more flavors. Alright. I just love the flexibility that this Gaiwan brings me. It's very exciting. Okay. So even though this is the second steeping, the flavor's just, the color is just as dark as it was before. And you can see that the leaves have started to like fold over. They're losing their stiffness. They're starting to unfurl and release their flavor. And even though we've already steeped this tea a little bit, the color is just as dark and the smell is just as, if not more potent. It feels like we're getting to the core of what's really inside these teas. Delicious. I use the term chocolate, but there's no sweetness. It's not a sweet tea. This is not like a blended or flavored tea from what I can tell. It just has that really thick, savory flavor to it. It's hard to explain. That's sort of the goal of these tastings. To see if I can improve my ability to describe teas and communicate that with you. If I had to compare, I don't know what exactly I would compare it with. Yeah, I'm not sure. I just really am impressed with the subtle chocolate impression that it gives. It's really a nice change, and it adds a lot of nice variety to keep it distinct from other tea flavors. But I wouldn't get this if you're looking for a chocolate, like, sweet chocolate candy bar sort of flavor. But as someone who has tried a lot of tea and is used to stronger flavors, that's the wrong cup. Let's try that again. Gaiwan. There we go. All right. So we pour a little extra water in there. We're going to let that seep for a little minute. A little longer than usual. See if I can get more of the bitterness. See if I can detect an undercurrent beneath it. All right. That's long enough. Let's give this a shot here. Oh, it smells so good. I can smell it even from all the way back here. All right. Yeah, I'm not getting any more subtle hints. It's just that strong, savory bitterness that continues to add to the depth and nuance of this tea. I just love it, though. It really is delicious. Big fan. So once again, this is the Red Can Kungfu Phoenix Black Tea Classic 58 Blend. You can get it on naturalpuerh.com, and I'm really enjoying it. It's got a novel flavor that I haven't experienced before. And This is always kind of fun to look at the liqueur from all the different steepings, getting us this nice sort of golden flavor that's blended together. I'll probably drink that later while I'm editing this podcast. All right. And the last benefit of a gaiwan is the easy cleanup. So with the teapot, you need to rinse it, make sure everything gets cleaned up. But thanks to this little tea tray, we can just rinse it out. Easy peasy. Give this a rinse with water. We'll rinse out the tasting cup as well, just to make sure we're not diluting anything. All right, pour it right over there. Excellent. And we're ready to go for a second steeping. This episode might be a little bit shorter. Like I said, this is my second attempt trying to record it, and I'm nervous about the quality of the video, so I apologize for rushing a little bit. This next one should make up for the slightly rushed red can experience. So this is 2008 Colorful Peacock Cooked Boulang Puerh. The Bai Yao Ting brand was rated as top 10 famous brands of Yunnan Puerh tea. This tea Colorful Peacock product continues the 100-year formula of the Liming Tea Factory. And like I said, it's a pu'er, so you can see it's been compressed into these nice cakes. We're gonna add a couple big cakes and then a couple sort of small little bits to get a nice variety. Here we go. So pu'er tea is packed into cakes and then aged. This is from 2009. That's what the website anyways said. And we're going to, as we add water, you're going to see the tea leaves sort of start to come apart. They're going to release that flavor that they've been holding on for more than 10 years. And we'll see what kind of liqueur we get. Just like before, I'm going to give it a quick rinse. And we have another empty cup here, ready for saving the liqueur. All right. Now everything's kind of bunched up on the sides because we just poured it out, but you can already see that the leaves have gotten wet, they've gotten warm, and they've started to come apart a little bit and release some of their flavor. Yeah, there we go. So let's do a longer steeping and see what we can get. Most of the pu'er that I've tried is really strong, which makes sense. You know, if the tea's been packed away and marinating for 10 years, it's going to have a strong flavor. And I love the pu'ers for their thick earthiness. It just makes me feel warm and comfortable and relaxes me. So I always love a good pu'er. I'm excited to see what this one has to offer. The Colorful Peacock name makes me hope for like something fruity or vibrant, but we will see. So, as I predicted, we do have a very dark color. That is darker than the red tea we had earlier. In the East, here's the mug from before. That's why it's called red tea. We call black tea because of the leaves, but this is what the East refers to as black tea, the fermented, the aged. You can see why. Not only is the liqueur so much darker, but the leaves themselves are very dark and very, very oxidized. So let's see what we got for smells. I forgot to smell the leaves. Let's give that a quick shot. So we do have that strong musty flavor or smell. I haven't tasted the leaves, I promise. But we have that strong musty scent. There's that thickness, almost like it's releasing some of the dampness from the caves where it was aged. I just love that feeling of like an old jungle villa. The smell of the liqueur has a similar flavor. So despite the dark liqueur, the flavor's a lot more subtle than I would have expected. The smell is almost affecting the experience more than the taste is. The taste has sort of a subtle, clear flavor to it. Almost like water. I don't mean that as like a negative, but it's definitely not as strong as some of the other Puers I've had, where their thick mustiness is overwhelming. So I wonder if we've got a subtle Puer. I didn't know there was such a thing. Yeah, that's very subtle. Let's try letting this guy steep again. Maybe as we do our steepings, we'll get a little more variety out of it. All right. Give that a little more water. We're going to let that sit for a little bit. So thank you again to Alan Yu from naturalpuer.com. I am excited to dive more into this colorful Peacock cooked puer. All right, let's see what we got for a second steeping. Here's the puer. There's the red tea. So we got a much darker flavor now, darker color. The smell is certainly stronger. Getting a lot more of that thick, musty puer scent that I know and love. And now we're getting the flavor. We're getting some notes of like, not smoke, almost like morning dew, that thick mist that you get when you wake up in the mountains. It's humid, it's almost peaty, sort of mossy flavor. But way more subtle than any puer I've had. I'm shocked. Absolutely shocked. I've never had a subtle puer in my life. Everything has smacked me in the face with crazy flavor. And that's one of the reasons I like puer so much, is that I feel like each cup is an experience that you will not forget. It's okay, Ori. We'll find the flavor. Don't worry. My dog is very nervous about this puer. All right, that's steeped long enough. And we're getting even darker now, as you can see. The smell is getting stronger. And that peat moss impression is getting even stronger. The more I drink these teas, the more I realize that when people describe the notes and the flavors of something, they're really referring to impressions. Like, this doesn't actually taste like a cup of peat moss or Mountain Dew, but those are the notes, the remnants, the memories that brings up. It reminds me of when my wife and I went to the mountains, and I would wake up in the morning and have a cigar by myself looking over the slope that led down to this tiny city. And the way that experience just sort of filled my head, not just with nicotine from the tobacco, but as like an experiential thing. I get that same impression from this Puerh. And like I said, it's a subtle tea. I didn't expect that. If you are a big tea drinker and you want to try Puerh, but you don't like how strong and thick a lot of them are, this might be a good option. This might offer you a more nuanced experience that you're looking for, and it might be something that you could drink without feeling overwhelmed or... Delicious. Delicious. I really like it. Not what I expected at all. Alright, so just to summarize, this is the 2008 Colorful Peacock Cooked Boulang Puerh. The website says 2009. The note that Alan sent me says 2008. So, not sure which one. Perhaps that was like December 31st, January 1st kind of a deal. And then the other one we tried is the Phoenix Black Tea Red Can Kungfu Classic 58 blend. It gave us this really nice sort of chocolatey bitterness impression. Thank you for joining me, and I hope, as always, that you can turn this virtual experience into a real-life tea adventure for yourself. Have a good week.